Good morning, hockey fans. Welcome to Thursday's edition of Morning Cup of Hockey alongside Colby Cohen. I'm Jonny Lazarus. We are presented by Betway. If you're going to place a bet on Betway. Please play responsibly. And remember, you must be 19 years of age or older. If you're in our YouTube chat right now, we've got a poll going for you about how the Western Conference Final will finish. I've actually changed my mind. I originally had Dallas in 6, and I voted Oilers in 7. Starting to feel the Edmonton vibes here. So if you're clicking on our poll, don't forget to click on the like and subscribe button on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. But Colby, I'm starting to believe in the Edmonton Oilers. We got both series now knotted up at 2 apiece. The best possible scenario if you are a hockey fan and you don't have rooting interest in either series, because now you have 2 pivotal game 5s on back-to-back nights, and we might see both conference finals go in 7 games. What do you make of that?
It's good for hockey. And at this time of year, you've got to hope that the right 4 teams are in it. And you've got to hope that, that means you're going to see 7 games. And look, I'll give Edmonton a lot of credit, Jonny, because, if they weren't on home ice last night,
Cooked.
I'm not sure if they have enough life to come back in that hockey game. I think the fans in Edmonton deserve a major assist on that game last night, because the energy that they bring in that building, and they needed it. Edmonton came out not necessarily flat, actually. They really weren't that flat. It was just really a couple of bounces, that went the wrong way.
I don't know. That first goal is a bad pinch.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can point to the fact that McDavid made a bad read in the neutral zone as the centerman. He's supposed to be there, but he gets caught cheating in the neutral zone. And then Darnell Nurse just played that 2-on-1 horrifically. And what I want you to focus on here, stop it right here, Vic. If you think about this clip from TNT, for anybody who's already here in the YouTube watching, as a defenseman, okay, your goal is to not give away the goal mouth pass, right? But when you read this, if you're Darnell Nurse, Wyatt Johnston is a right shot on the left side. So his stick is to the middle, right? So his stick is in a perfect shooting angle. If Wyatt Johnston is a lefty, well, then you leave him there and you want him to shoot from what would be a bad angle. But this is way too much space. It's way too prime of an opportunity. And Darnell Nurse is kind of standing in the middle, covering nobody on this 2-on-1. He's not really taking away the pass. His stick isn't in the right position to confront the shooter. So again, as a defenseman, one of the first things you learn, right, when you get a good coach is on a 2-on-1, you have to identify the hands of the shooters, because that's how you figure out who is a more dangerous shooter. And you can roll the clip now, Vic. And that's the thing, is that Darnell Nurse doesn't do that. He doesn't make a defensive read. He doesn't make it quick enough. He's hesitant. We know he's lacking confidence in the way that he's playing. He had a fine game after that. Obviously the next goal goes in off of his butt, which is just completely unlucky. When it rains, it pours. But I didn't think the Oilers were horrifically bad by any stretch of imagination. I don't think they no-showed. I think it's a couple of bad bounces, to start that game.
But they also only had like 1 shot on goal 10 minutes in, and they're already down 2-0. You look at the shots, it was at one point, I think 5 minutes in, it's like a 2-0 score. Shots are 3-0 for Dallas. I mean, I know you're saying they didn't come out flat, but you got to come out. They've come out better than that in every single game in this series. Like the Oilers, in my opinion, the first 3 games, they had the better jump in all 3. And that was the one game they needed the most. And they came out not as hot as they did in the previous 3.
It seems like when Dallas starts well, the game doesn't go well for them. Go back to the Colorado series.
Yeah.
They're up 3-0. And or the one game, was it 3-0?
Yeah, game one.
They lose. The next game, they're up, a bunch, and then Colorado almost comes back, gets it to 4-3. So they're gonna have to figure that out, Dallas, because it's a really dangerous game to play for the Dallas Stars. But how about the lineup changes, Jonny? I mean, Knoblauch, made some moves that I think certain people were not sure about. He puts Corey Perry in on the second line. McLeod comes back into the lineup. He goes to the second line. I think McLeod brings you speed. And then, Janmark comes back in. And one thing that I noticed after the game, Johnny, that again, like this should be a really obvious thing to say, and Edmonton struggles with it. Every coach that Edmonton has had has struggled with this is the ice time balance. There was not one Oiler forward over 20 minutes last night. And obviously it's a luxury when you're up in the third period. Mm-hmm. That was a tight hockey game. I mean, that's an empty netter, puts that to 5-2, but otherwise it's an incredibly tight hockey game. So, the ice time was pretty balanced. I think Derek Ryan only played about 7.5 minutes, but everyone else was up over 10 minutes. Everybody else, Perry played 14, Kane played 13, Holloway was in the low teens. Like, and when you're able to play 3.5, maybe almost 4 lines, we saw how that hurt the Rangers the other night, didn't we? It's a theme in these playoffs. And every guest we talked to when we had Billy on the other day stresses the importance of being able to play a full lineup of players, within the throughout the game.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. McDavid, 1950. Evander Kane, less than 14 minutes. Corey Perry, a little north of 13. Darnell Nurse, less than 20.
McDavid was good last night. He had the Jets going. He did not look like he was fighting, a sports hernia issue or whatever injury that he's dealing with right now. I have a suspicion that when the season is over, I think there'll be an announcement about something that he's dealing with. And I've heard some rumblings that it might be a sports hernia, little core muscle injury is sort of the fancy term for that. What about Broberg? Broberg comes in after playing a lot two NHL games in the last, 4 or 5 months. He was in the American League for most of the year. And look, he did his job. I think people thought they might go 11-7 because I think Desharnais is a good penalty killer. Although Tyler told us yesterday he didn't have a good game. Look, I've said it on Oilers Nation a dozen times this year. It's going to be hard to win a Stanley Cup with the D-core, with the holes in their D-core. And, Desharnais is an example, and he paid for it. He didn't play last night, and I wouldn't expect to see him in Game 5 either.
Yeah, I thought Edmonton did a really good job. Like halfway through that first period, also like one thing to note on too, I don't know if you looked at this, but the disparity in hits last night. Like Edmonton isn't typically a very physical team. They had 47 hits. Dallas had 23. I mean, typically that would say like, my first instinct, if I heard that stat, I'd be like, oh, well, Edmonton didn't have the puck, but they did. The Oilers had the puck for a lot of that game outside the first 10 minutes. I think when you bring, like Vic just said, when you bring a guy like Corey Perry in the lineup or even Broberg on the back end, like that kind of, impacts your team a little bit, right? Like having those big physical guys out there to just try to make any impact they can, which is typically throwing the body. And you're talking about the D-core, and I think there was a lot of concern about Kulak and Nurse. And after the start they had, I'm pretty sure everyone in that building would have been a little bit on edge, but even they locked it in a little bit as the game went on.
And Skinner did too. Look, there's nothing.
Well, I don't think you can blame Skinner for those two.
No, I'd like him to stop the Johnson one.
Yeah,
you'd like him to save it.
But
I think that was it. But it's a goal scorer. Scores a goal, scores goal. Like I'm not going to call it a soft goal. I love him to have it. It's the first minute of the game, so or first 2 minutes of the game. So you'd like to see him come up with it. But look, I think that Stuart Skinner, again, not the problem last night, and for him to have 2 goals go in early and then buckle it down, I think you have to give him a little bit of credit.
Yeah,
I think that shows a little bit of mental toughness. I think that shows, maturity in his game. But I'll ask you this, Johnny, because to me, there was one thing that was glaring to me last night, and it was glaring to me for the Edmonton Oilers as to why they won that hockey game. And it's the wall battles. They won every wall battle. I mean, if there was a 50-50 puck to be had, they won it. They were quicker. They were in on the battle quicker. They played through battles quicker. You already mentioned that they were a little more physical. Mm-hmm. Vic brought up Corey Perry to us yesterday. I think a lot of that has to do with Corey Perry dragging those guys in and into the wall battles. on two of the goals in particular, and I wrote this down, on the second goal, Nugent Hopkins, he wins a board battle. It results in a goal. He gets the second assist and it results in a goal. On the Draisaitl goal, on the fourth goal.
Can I say one thing on that goal too, though, before we move on to the next goal? Evan Bouchard, and you'd appreciate this as a defenseman, he beats everyone up the ice. Like, he anticipates that play happening. He's the last guy in the frame when that play starts. And then next thing you know, it's a 2-on-1 with Bouchard. And I'm sure you had that instinct too when you were a player, right? You were an offensive defenseman jumping in the play. Like, he beats all three Dallas forwards to that spot up the ice. Like, that's just high hockey IQ, right? For a guy like Evan Bouchard on the blue line.
Yeah, look, you're following the play up. You're looking for holes. I mean, absolutely. You're always thinking about, picking and choosing your spots. And I think that's a little more difficult. It's a little more difficult in the playoffs because the margin is so thin in the playoffs. But, back to the point that I was making.
Yeah, sorry.
How about Ekholm? Again, he wins a board battle on the fourth goal in the neutral zone. The puck turns over. Here they go. Draisaitl ends up scoring that fourth goal, which, gives him that 2-goal cushion and kind of puts that game a little bit out of reach and takes the life out of the Dallas Stars. And so, hockey, you can get as X's and O as Xy and OE as you want. But every coach will tell you, every coach you played for, Greg Carvel, everyone I played for, whether it was Bruce Cassidy or Claude Julien, or you just go through the names. You don't win hockey games without winning 50-50 pucks. Yeah. And you don't win battles along the walls. You don't win. And Edmonton won their battles coming out of the zone. They were clean. And when they weren't clean, they battled pucks out. They outnumbered along the wall. They protected it. They possessed it. And, at the end of the day, like that's what it came down to, because special teams, power play was not a factor. It continues to not be a factor in the series. And there were opportunities. So it just came down to board battles, and Edmonton got the best of those board battles. And look, I still like Dallas to win this series, but I'm having to think twice. I'm wondering, to me, I made a statement in the last week that the Dallas Stars were the only team in the playoffs left that I've never seen them look rattled. Not panicked, just rattled. The word I used was rattled. And they look rattled last night. They did. Like, they look rattled last night. And Ranger fans got really butthurt when I said that, and they were all in their feelings in my mentions about how the Rangers have never looked rattled in the playoffs, which I don't agree with. I think they have looked rattled at times.
Yeah, that actually reminds me, we got Michael Del Zotto coming on the show at 9:30. Just a reminder, haven't said that yet, but continue your thoughts. Sorry about that.
Jonny, can you just tell everybody where you are? Because we're
getting a lot of comments, right?
It's a big point of discussion in the chat right now. You're back in Craft Corner. I saw somebody write.
Oh, and someone said I can't say shit about Frank being on the toilet anymore. That's pretty funny. I am at my sister's house right now. I'm in her office. She had a baby last week, so we are having a bris this morning. So I flew home from Fort Lauderdale yesterday.
Jonny, for our non-Jewish listeners, would you like to tell them what a bris is?
You would know better than me. I would just describe it as when they snip the foreskin off of the baby boy. So for lack of more detail, that's why I'm home today. I'll be going back to the city right after the bris for the Ranger game tonight. But I slept on Long Island last night, and outside of this room there is 2 crying babies and a whole lot of family. So I'm in a crowded house right now, and what do they call it? The Crafters Corner. I actually like that a lot.
Crafters Corner.
Funny. I've done some shows in this spot before, but yeah, I'm here right now.
So Tommy T in the chat is asking, do you think Edmonton has a complete game? Has a complete game to win this series? Their backs were up against the wall. Listen, they responded last night, and that was not a straight line win for them. That was a big up and down performance, the way that first period went for them. And again, like, when you have Connor McDavid, you're really never out of it. When Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are all over the score sheet, but then Corey Perry and Ryan McLeod, we talk about the depth of this Oilers team till we're blue in the face. And last night, depth delivered. And then, their big guns delivered. Draisaitl, McDavid with some apples, Bouchard scores a goal. So when you mix that together, like there's a reason Edmonton is in the Final Four. I do think that, we've discounted them, myself included, and it's not so much them, it's more just how good Dallas is. But at the end of the day, like, I think Edmonton's given us all something to think about right now. I really do.
Well, let me ask you this too, because you look at this series and neither team has scored a power play goal through 4 games, which is wild. And if you told me the Edmonton Oilers would be tied with Dallas 2-2 and they hadn't scored in their power play, I'd wonder what the fuck was going on in that series. Is this a concern for Dallas if Edmonton finds a way to get one in the next game or gets their power play going? I know the calls, like Colby, you look at the penalties in this series and there haven't really been many opportunities. Like Edmonton's only had they had 1 power play in game 1, 2 in games 2 and 3, and then 1 last night. Like they're not getting a lot of opportunities, but you have to think if 1 goes in for the Oilers, like they're gonna smell blood, right? Like blood's in the water, whatever that saying is.
I agree, but you also got to remember Dallas has a pretty good power play too. They're a team that can make it happen as well on the power play. They're a team that can hurt you, especially when you start thinking about Heiskanen and some of the other characters that they have. Ropa Hintz being back. So
another point I wanted to make: Joe Pavelski. What's going on with him? What's going on? 1 goal, 3 assists in the playoffs, 17 games.
It's been really quiet for him. It's the polar opposite of what you've seen with Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn, who, have played tremendous and are guys who are now into their 30s that, people were concerned about their contracts a couple of years ago. And, look at how their games have evolved and look at where they've come. So I do think it's been a struggle for Pavelski, but again, when you have a guy like him, you never really count him out of a series. You know that there's always going to be something there. There could be a big play there. You do start to get a little more power play opportunity and you get 1 on his stick and then, I think things can change pretty quickly for a guy like Pavelski, but they need to get him going. They really do. And, again, though, it is, in my opinion, and I think this for both series, I think the team that wins the next game wins the series. Like I don't foresee any of these teams reeling off, 2 in a row, game 6 and game 7. I think the team that wins game 5 in these 2 series, is going to win the series.
It's definitely an interesting take. I would trust Dallas or Edmonton more than Rangers, Florida. Like if the Rangers win game 5, I could see the Panthers easily winning game 6 and 7. I can't
easily.
No. I'm saying like if I were picking one of these teams to do it, I'd be picking Florida.
Really? Like you think even with Shesterkin, you think the Florida could go reel off 2 in a row against them?
I think they could.
And just remember something.
Yeah.
We're now to a best of 3 for both of these series, right? So think of how much tighter these series have been than any other. Think of it in general. Crazy. Think of how tight the goaltending has been, the physicality, the reffing, everything's tightened up. As we get into this final best of 3 of these 2 series, notch it up another 25% as far as tightness goes.
Yeah.
Pressure,
and to that,
tightness, all of that.
To that, I want to reference Frank Saravelli just put out an article on dailyfaceoff.com talking about Chris Tanev. So for those who are asking in the chat as well, Tanev blocked a shot in the second period and didn't return to the game and actually left Rogers Place in a walking boot. So Frank, in his article, I have it pulled up right now, this is what he wrote. The biggest storyline has been the Stars' clear advantage in depth. In the wake of Chris Tanev's injury, that pendulum has now swung in Edmonton's favor if Tanev is unavailable in a pivotal game 5. Stars coach Pete DeBoer has his fingers crossed that Tanev will be available on Friday night. He left the second period, basically what I said.
And that means you're going to have Alex Petrovic, who's again back in the NHL for the first time since 2016, and Nils Lundqvist, right? So there's no more. You can no longer protect Petrovic at that point. He's going to have to play more significant minutes because I don't think they have a lot of faith or trust in Lundqvist.
Mm-hmm. And also, just to clarify, it was rumored that he left in a walking boot. Rumored, not confirmed.
I did see the quote from Pete DeBoer where he said, like fingers crossed. So you'd like to see Tanev play. You don't want to see marquee players go down at this point of a really good series. Again, though, last night you could feel Edmonton's fans. I mean, you just could feel it. It's just incredible, that building. I was texting with Tyler and BM from Oilers Nation throughout the game, and they were sending me videos of the building just through their cell phones. I mean, those fans, man, it looks like a pretty cool thing to be a part of out there in the playoffs. I've never been there for a playoff game, just regular season. Even those are pretty big, but the energy coming out of that building it's just incredible.
Yeah, no, the videos were awesome on social media last night. And something I want to ask you too, and I've seen this come up a lot with Ranger fans specifically, but I want to cater it to all 4 teams. Colby, it's like one of the oldest sayings in hockey: got to play a full 60, got to play a complete 60. I mean, you could maybe make the case for Florida, but I don't think any of these 4 teams have put together a full 60-minute game yet, especially in this Stars-Oilers series. Like, we kind of mentioned it. I thought Dallas was the better team in game 1. Edmonton wins. I thought Edmonton came out hot in game 2. Dallas wins. Edmonton comes out hot again in game 3. Blow a lead. Dallas wins. Dallas comes out strong in game 4. Blow a lead. Edmonton wins. Like, these games have been, there's been 10-minute lapses, I feel like, on all sides. And, these are the 4 top teams in the league we're talking about who can't put together a full 60-minute effort. I'm curious just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I think you've got 2 things going right now. I think, pressure is big this time of year. I think Florida is probably the closest thing to a full 60-minute effort of the 4 teams. Mm-hmm. Just because I think that Florida is pretty comfortable just in the meat grinder. They're comfortable in their D zone. They're comfortable just protecting the house and giving more peripheral opportunities up. But I think you got to give a little bit of credit to just how good these teams are and how fast the game is, and players that can make plays. So I think that you're not wrong, and that there's been a lot of ebbs and there's been a lot of flows. But when you get to this point of the year, again, you're talking about the 4 best teams. So these teams are all built physically, mentally. They're good at a lot of different things, and they just have the ability to push back. They have the ability to take a punch, and give a punch. I mean, I've said this before when Dallas has been down in games or down in series. I'm like, yeah, I'm not worried about them because I know they know how to take a punch. And I think Florida's a little bit like that as well, with the fact that, they don't need to play in the offensive zone. They know once they get the puck, once they get into their forecheck, once they get their skating game, they're going to be okay. And, I think that that's probably why you've seen these massive period changes between these teams throughout the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's been unbelievable hockey. Anything that you want to kind of wrap up this Dallas Edmonton talk?
First off, before we move on, if you haven't voted in the poll, look in the chat. We've got 77 votes so far, which means a lot of you have not voted. Let's see what you think. We want to get everybody's opinion on this. We're curious who you think's going to win and why. If you want to say in the chat, like, who are you more confident in? Are you picking the Stars because it's odd? Are you now worried about the Stars because of Tanev? Where are we at? And then the other thing I would say is, if you're hearing the episode, give us a like if you're enjoying it. I know you guys like this. If you're here, you guys tweet us all day. We appreciate messages. You guys are super active in the chat. So if you don't mind, throw us a like. It helps pushing our episodes up to the top. It helps with views. It helps with advertisers. If you're not subscribed to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel, give us subscribe. I mean, there's a lot of content. It's our show every day at 9. It's Frank and Tyler's show every day at noon. They do a starting goalie segment with Carter Hutton most days, where they look at the goalie matchup for every game. Obviously, Carter Hutton had a solid NHL career. You've got fantasy hockey stuff, from Brock Seguin and some other people. And then Stephen Ellis does a lot of prospect stuff on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. And, the draft is coming in hot. It's June 1 here in 48 hours. And the NHL draft is sometime the end of June. So you're going to want to start to know, especially for teams that are out. I know we're not just dealing with Oilers fans, Rangers fans, Florida fans, and Dallas fans here. We recognize a lot of you guys from, your different teams that you support. So check that out with Stephen Ellis, all of the content that he puts on there about the prospects. So throw the like, throw the subscribe to the Daily Faceoff. Again, it's a little thing, but it goes a long way for us. It goes a long way with our sponsors and look, with the financing of the show, obviously there is a business element to this whole thing. So we appreciate all that and keep the votes going on the poll. We'll revisit it before the end of the show, even though we're going to move on, to our featured guest today and get into our Proraso playoff preview and talk a little Rangers Panthers.
Yeah, we got DZ in the chat texting hi right now. He's ready to rip. I know he's fired up. But before we welcome on Michael Del Zotto, this is presented by Proraso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Proraso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15. That's Proraso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps. The beard for me, still going strong. Hopefully there's a couple more weeks to keep growing it out while the Rangers continue here. But let's bring on former New York Ranger defenseman, good friend of mine, hopefully a new friend of Colby. Is not sure how these two will get along. We'll see how that goes. But Michael Del Zotto, welcome to the show. What's going on, DZ?
Thanks for having me, guys. How you doing?
What are you, under a tunnel in Miami right now?
No, I changed up the background. I didn't want to make you jealous. Last time I had the ocean in the background, I felt like it was kind of a dick move. So I just went with the plain background this time.
It looks like we're filming a hostage video right now. So looks like you just got off the bike and we're doing a hostage video.
Liam Neeson is busy at the Rangers game. He can't come save me.
Well, I'm in my sister's office right now, so you can chirp me too for my background.
I was going to say something, but I thought we were going to be polite today. We'll get to it in a bit. No worries.
We don't really stay polite on this show. It kind of depends who's on with us. But DZ, you kind of know, we can go into the must win, can't lose a little bit later. You know this position, right? You were a New York Ranger playing Game 5 at home against the Devils in the Eastern Conference Final. And being a Ranger fan myself, Game 5s at home have haunted Ranger fans forever. You think about that game, you think about 2015 against Tampa, they get shut out. 2022 against Tampa, they don't really show up. For whatever reason, the Rangers have come out flat in Game 5s at home in this position. Can you take us through the mind of a player right now on game day before one of these big games?
Definitely nervous. Definitely a lot of tension. I was there for Game 1, and I was shocked at how flat the team came out. I was shocked by the energy in the building. I think there's a lot of disappointed people with this series. You look at the top guys, they've been a no-show. And it's not even on the production side. You watch at the little details. You're not always going to have your offensive game. You may not always produce, but some of these guys are turning off pucks. They're not stopping on pucks. So not that you have to blow guys up, but even finishing a check, just doing the little things that can potentially provide some momentum for your team. Some guys are playing like it's a fucking 10 p.m. game at Chelsea Piers right now. And
Yeah.
it's shocking to me. Like, I can't believe it. And I'm utterly disappointed. And again, I understand you can't produce every single night, and it's hard come playoff time. And Florida's a tough team. They smother you all over the ice. They have good goaltending. They're a very deep team. That's why they are where they are. But I just think the effort level isn't where it needs to be for some guys.
We talk about B game on this show all the time. And, you had a long NHL career, so you had a B game, because guys do not last as long as you lasted without a B game. Look, me personally, I couldn't figure that out, and I couldn't make it and stay in the National League, because when I didn't have my game, I was dog shit. I brought nothing else to the table. Nothing. I couldn't defend. I wasn't playing tough. So I think that's what's missing right now with a lot of those guys is what's your B game? What can you bring to the team when you're not producing? But they are 2-2, and I think maybe that's the positive that you can draw from it. Imagine if Mika, and imagine if Kreids, and I think Kreids finds other ways to contribute to the hockey game. I'm not sure I'd put him, but imagine if Panarin gets going a little bit. I mean, at 2-2, you could feel good at least about that.
Like, God forbid Igor has somewhat of an off night.
You're in trouble.
You're in trouble, right? And I think that even the last 2 series, and you always you always look at the numbers, right? That's just what we do. You see the stats. Oh, wow, 2 goals, 3 goals, or 1-1, however many minutes, hits, blocks. Like, it's easy to follow the game that way. But if you watch the game within the game, and I think with the power play being as hot as it was for the first 2 rounds, it masked a lot of these things that are now magnified from this series because the power play has been dog shit. So we're seeing a lot of the stuff that happened last series, but we're just talking about it now when we weren't last series because, again, they were winning and they were scoring goals, so it didn't matter.
Well, that point too, I said it on the Blue Crew pod that I do, like, when one thing good happens, it just kind of takes away all the bad that happens. Like in game 3, Wenberg scores the overtime goal and you forget about all these things. A week ago, we're talking about Chris Kreider's number going up to the rafters. Now he has no points in 4 games and all of a sudden he's a fucking bum, right? Like it's just kind of how it goes in hockey. And that's, that's the blessing and the curse also of playing in a big market like New York. They love you when you're playing well. They hate you when you're playing bad. You know that better than anyone, DZ, right? Like you went through it.
Yeah.
But tonight, like, if the Rangers find a way to win this game, let's say tonight, but again, it's not from the guys like Panarin and Mika and Kreider, we got to give Vinny Trocheck his praise. Like, even when that guy's not producing, you know what you're getting from him.
Yeah, he has a B game for sure.
He has a C game, a D game. He's got fucking everything. But, there should be something said, though, about the guys like Gaudreau scoring and Lafreniere the way he's playing. Like, people want to say, if you're going to win the Stanley Cup, you need your big players to show up, but then you also need the depth players. So, like, at what point are we complimenting the other guys that are stepping up?
We only have the depth players that are going right now. And, we were chatting last game, like Gaudreau, you look at some of the plays that he got shit on all year. I think at one moment, no defenseman didn't have a stick. They're hemmed in their zone after a minute. And he makes a huge block, deflects the puck out of the zone, and just relieves some pressure. It's like little plays that give you some momentum. Okay, now you get some energy on the bench. Maybe now the next shift we go out. Now we're in the O zone. And it starts to turn things a little bit. I got laugh. The guy's got balls, man. Like he wants the puck. He wants to be a difference maker. And there's this saying, it's like, you want the puck or you want the puck. I know it may sound stupid, but some guys will be in the right position to receive the puck, but he's demanding it. When he's on the ice, like, I'm giving this guy the puck. He wants it. And every time he has it, he's a difference maker. So he's thoroughly impressed me. He's got some balls.
So let me ask you this, and I want to go into some of the lineup stuff with you and kind of get your opinion, because I know, you were on the Blues that won the Cup in 19. I know Larry Flowers thinks he was on the 4th line of that team, but he wasn't. But you had a really impressive 4th line on that team, and you go back and I was part of the Bruins team in 11. And I think about the Merlot line that we had in that run, and you just go through and those 4th lines seem to just matter. So let me ask you a question. On the road, does it make sense to have Rempe in the lineup on the road if he's only going to get 4 and 5 minutes of ice time? Or is that a guy you unleash him at home? He brings all the energy into the building because I know this is a pretty long drawn out question that I'm asking you, but where I see issue here is that Roslovic is not a top 6 forward. He's just not. He has some skill. He has some flashes, but there's a reason that he's bounced between 1st and 4th lines his whole career, right? There's a consistency factor. He's not heavy on the puck, and again, it's not personal. It's just what I see out of him. So now all of a sudden, come the second period, Roslovic is sitting on the bench. Kakko's moving up to the 1st line. Who I thought deserved to be moved up the lineup the way he's battled the last couple of games. And now all of a sudden, Lavi's trying to shuffle like 3 lines. He's trying to work Wheeler back in, who again is a, you want to see Wheeler succeed. You want to see him get his legs under him, all this kind of stuff. But I feel like it leaves Peter Laviolette a little handcuffed the way that he has to run his bench. So I'm curious, like, what would you do with the lineup card right now? And it's not just Rempe, it's the 1st line. Like, who are you putting up there to start this game? And where do the other chips fall?
That's a great question. You make a great point. With Rempe at home, he creates so much energy within the crowd. He gets on the ice, he takes a face-off, and it's like they scored a goal. The place goes nuts. On the road, he doesn't have that, although there was a large number of Rangers fans at there
were Rempe chants going in game 4.
Yeah. So You're right. If he's only giving you 5 minutes, I don't think he can be in the lineup. Unfortunately, my buddy Rozovic, he's had a bit of a tough series, but you can't have. I think you have to put someone heavier up there. Do you throw a guy like? It's gonna be a crazy comment. Do you throw a guy like Goodrow up on the first line for a couple shifts and just let someone go in there and muck it up a little bit to change it up? I don't know. At this point, I really don't know. You just can't have two guys who are struggling and two guys who are quote unquote soft down low or around the boards, not being able to win 50-50 puck battles right now. It's not working. So I'm not sure what the recipe is. And Laviolette, I'm sure is going to come up with something. He's a brilliant coach and he's been doing it for years. But to your point, you need to have that someone who's going to give you more than 5 minutes, because now it's messing with some of your lineup rotations, especially if it comes to a special teams game. A lot of guys are logging big minutes and they're going to be gassed come 5-on-5, and as we've seen, their 5-on-5 production is subpar.
Well, I kind of wanted to add to that too. Like, Philip Hedl gets healthy scratched in Game 4. They say they want to get his legs under him. Blake Wheeler is playing in Game 4, someone who hasn't played in 3 months, and he's caught out there again. Not his fault in overtime on that turnover. But here's what I'm thinking too with the lineup, Colby. To your question. Philip Hedl, when he was in the lineup, he was playing first line right wing for the most part. He played a little bit left wing on the third line, but he is a natural center. Like, if you want to play him, why not move Gaudreau up to Del Zotto, to DZ's point, and put Hedl as a third line center and push Wenberg down to the fourth line center?
I think there's some sense to that, because I think with Hedl, did you play with Hedl, DZ, or was he gone? He was gone, right?
Yeah.
You were gone. So, like, he seems to make plays. Like, when he's a guy that the more the puck's on his stick, the more plays he makes. And some centers are like that. That's why, certain guys, they just need more touches. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad idea, Johnny. I think that, there could be some sense to that. But again, you're in a 2-2 in the conference finals. Like, does the blender really come out at this point? Does that make people feel like, oh, the Rangers are panicking a little bit? I don't know.
Is it crazy to throw Wheeler back up there and give him a chance? I know he's been out for a while, but he's got that, at least some energy.
Blake Wheeler.
Exactly. He's got energy. He's a bigger body. At this point, hey, you could try anything.
I would try it.
I think that's what I would try. And maybe it lights a fire up the other guy's asses too. Like, hey, this isn't working. Let's fucking get going here. We're lucky to be 2-2. We got to find something.
Colby, let me know what you think of this one.
We have a question in the chat that I want to throw your way, because I think it's a good question. I know Johnny's going to love this question, because nobody is a bigger Alexis Lafreniere super fan than Johnny. Next time you guys are together, DZ, he'll show you his tattoo that he got. But
lies.
But Michelle
People would believe that, so don't fucking say that.
Michelle in the chat is saying, do you think that Mika should be replaced on the power play right now with Alexis Lafreniere? I don't, because it's Mika.
I said no too.
So, but no, because of how the power play is set up and where he is as a shooter, you can't have a lefty there, because then it completely ruins the whole rotation. But the power plays, they've been so good. I just don't know how you change it.
It's hard to find room for him right now, even though he deserves it. And I'll admit that. It's hard to find room for him.
On the record, I also said no.
Yeah. Okay. Just how they're set up with three righties, they work. The one half wall. Though they have one-timers on. They basically have 3 one-timers when Panarin has the puck or whoever's working the half wall. They're definitely interchangeable. So I just don't think, as far as structure standpoint, it makes sense at all. Although he does deserve it, he really does. Maybe you give the second unit a little bit more time instead of just rolling. Give the second unit a start here or there.
Yeah,
just to switch it up a little bit.
Yeah,
I know, but you start the second unit,
it lights a fire on the first unit.
And you're getting the other team's first PK unit. Now you switch them up. The first unit comes on. You're getting the second or third guys for the other team. At this point, again, nothing's out. Can't throw anything out the window. Like, who knows? Who knows?
DZ, I want you. If you can remember far back. I know I kind of led with this, but can you kind of take us into the locker room before a game like this? I know. I'm sure Henrik was not talking to anyone very intense, but who are the guys that are talking that are kind of a little bit more loose, before a big Game 5 at home and a game that, it has that must-win narrative kind of around it. Like, who are the ones maybe on this Ranger team, if you are still friends with anybody, that's going to keep the room just a little bit light and not too tense, so they're not gripping their sticks too tight?
My guess, Blake Wheeler probably says something, just being the most veteran guy and probably watching from a distance the last little while, being able to see things from a different scope. As far as keeping things light, I mean, not that I know him at all, but you just see the way he plays and his attitude on the ice. Like, laugh just creates some fun young energy in the room. Maybe he says something stupid or whatever it may be. But
who was doing it for you guys in 2012?
For us, like, Brad Richards would be like a guy that stepped up and would say something just from his pedigree. Keeping things light, Dan Girardi was, he was hilarious in the locker room, a very undercover sense of humor. Not many people know about it, but he was, his one-liners were epic, epic. And then probably me next, being the young guy.
Mm-hmm. So what was, and this may be a difficult question for you to ask, because you've had some playoff runs, you played in big markets, you were in Philly, you were in New York. What was New York your favorite stop? Is that the place that you feel closest to home? I know when you win a Stanley Cup, obviously a part of that gets burnt into your heart forever, and you feel a tug there. But what would you say was your favorite stop?
Yeah. St. Louis, obviously, with the Cup, but New York and Philly. New York, being the first stop in my career, playing the longest, having some big years, playoff runs. Philly, I loved. Something about that fan base, living there felt like home to me. I had some big years there as well. I was kind of like number one D-man for a while. So it was a little bit of a different feeling for me, being able to come in the room and almost like having it like that was at a bigger say or a bigger role.
You were Michael Del Zotto at that point, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
You had a reputation, you had success in the league. You came into that room, I'm from Philly, right? So I remember when you went there, and your presence was already felt. I remember talking to Nasty and some of the other people around the room and hearing about
Nasty.
That. He's the head equipment guy for the Flyers for a very long time. Before that, his father was the head equipment guy, like when my dad was a fan of the Flyers back in the day. So, sorry, you're right. That's a good pickup there, Johnny. People obviously don't know. So, anyways, go ahead, DZ. Sorry.
Yeah, and being Italian, my last 2 years in Philly, I lived in South Philly, predominantly an Italian neighborhood. So I go outside, I play road hockey with the kids, and then the parents and the grandparents would come over and drop off food or limoncello or grappa. Like it felt like home to me, right? It was a very special place, and I definitely appreciate it, but probably not as much as I should have later on in my career. Once I realized, holy shit, I'm bouncing around. Like it was hard for somewhere to feel like home, and that in Philly felt like home. I just felt comfortable where I was living. Like it didn't feel like I was living out of my suitcase or traveling all the time.
Yeah. Well, I married a woman from South Philly, so I met her in New York. She lived in New York forever, but she's from a stone throw from the stadiums and right off of by Packer Park, where I'm sure Packer Park is probably right by where you lived in South Philly. So I know the culture well, very well, probably too well at this point, and I've had to learn some hard lessons with the culture, but I do know what you're talking about, that the whole people are driving food over and, casseroles and, especially around the holidays, it's like one big, it's very, South Philadelphia is its very own community. Like it's like its own thing within the city of Philadelphia. Like, oh yeah, I'm from South Philly. Oh, you're from Philly. They're like, no, I'm from South Philly. It's different than
like
being
Staten Island.
Yeah, exactly.
Staten Island to Philly.
Say it. Yeah.
I don't mean to be. I don't know if that's an insulting thing, though. I don't know how people take that.
No, but people are proud to be where they're from. That's very similar.
Yeah, DZ, let me hit you with a hard one here.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if our audience knows this, but I know this. You're a Torts guy, big Torts guy. Love John Tortorella. We had Brandon Dubinsky on here, a teammate of yours, when Torts scratched Sean Couturier. A lot of Ranger fans have made Jacob Trouba a punching bag on Twitter. Ranger fans love him or hate him. And he's the Rangers captain. Is there any world where you see Laviolette sitting him for a game? Please, please stress it. I think it's unbelievable that people want that.
If they had someone else to put in potentially, but who's the next man up? Zach Jones.
Zach Jones, yeah, and then Chad Ruedel.
So he's not going to come in and kill penalties. And listen, I'm a Trouba fan, not a fan of how he's played this playoffs, especially this series. And I know, Johnny, we've talked about this. It feels like he's always looking for that hit, and it's definitely part of his game. But if you watch every rush, he's jumping up, he's lunging forward to make that hit, and the play is passing him by. So he's chasing the game.
Well,
I mean, the elbow or the forearm. I mean, that's a whole other discussion.
He likes to say forearm. That's what he always says.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't an elbow. It was a forearm.
That's a whole other discussion. You can't take him out. There's just no one that can fill his shoes.
But we saw what happened to Philly after they scratched Couturier. Like, they lost 8 in a row. Like, after those 2 games?
8 of 10.
Yeah.
I think that's a different story. That's a regular season.
Yeah.
It was a 1 or 2 game thing. And I think there's a little bit more to peel back there.
For sure.
Yeah. And I think that's a story for another day. We could get into that.
I'm sure Coots well from your time in Philly.
For sure. And that's Torts being Torts. They're in a rebuilding position. They're not trying to win a cup. So there's, the repercussions or the consequences are much less than a Game 5 playoff game in the conference finals. You maybe have to think about, limiting his minutes a little bit for sure. Like, he's not playing well. But again, who on the back end is? If you look on the right side, okay, you have Schneider there, a young guy, and then you have Fox. And I mean, we can't really rave about Fox either. Mm-hmm. Whether he's hurt, whatever may be going on, the puck's on his stick in the O-zone, and he's got time and space. He's doing his thing. He's winning none, or maybe a few, but if I'd say none, no 50-50 puck battles in his own end. He's not clearing guys out in front of the net. He's not doing anything else on the defensive side of the puck, which was never his forte. I understand that. When you put up as many points as he does and contribute offensively, no one's asking you to be.
Yeah. But he always defended well enough, though.
Yes.
He always did.
He would get by. Exactly. It was never a big concern. But now, against a faster physical team like Florida, you're seeing some of the flaws. And again, I know he's injured with something, but a lot of guys are too. So my point being, if you limit Trouba's minutes, who are you giving the extra minutes to? Because it's not like someone else is playing incredible to deserve those. I think Miller actually had a really good game last game. He defended well. His stick was incredible. He was tracking, he was covering a lot of ice. I was very impressed with his game. But after that, I'm not sure there's anyone else that I'm really excited about their game right now.
I think Gus has had a really, really good season. And I was with him in Chicago for a couple of years when I was working for the Hawks doing TV. He's an awesome guy. I honestly, one of my favorite guys to be around on that Blackhawk team. But look, again, when a player has played a lot of games in the league and they've told you who they are for a lot of games, you believe them. And I had a feeling Gus might struggle as things got really heavy and physical and he's bounced back and forth. But, I said to Jonny before the series started, DZ, a concern that I had with the Rangers was how does the D-corps handle getting back on pucks and getting out of their zone? Because the way Florida forechecks, they're not a team that kind of shadows you in and tries to push you into the wall. As on a forecheck, they try to beat you on every puck. You've brought up 50-50 puck battles probably 4 times. We started our show today and I said the huge difference, take all the X's and O's out of the Edmonton-Dallas game. Edmonton won all the puck battles on the wall. Dallas did not. It doesn't matter how fancy of a coach you have, whatever your system and structure is, hockey is actually very simple. If you win all the 50-50 battles, you're going to win. I worry with the D-corps of the Rangers. They're getting beat up. They're not getting back on the pucks and winning those battles, Foxy included, who I think the world of the guy. I think he's he's a Norris Trophy winner. I don't have to say anything else, right? But I thought that was a concern going into the series.
I agree. Jonny and I spoke about it. They're going to be physical early on and they're a little beat up. After 2-3 games, you don't want to be back on that puck first. You're almost going to allow that guy to get in. And then now it's a slippery slope. Now you can't get out of your end zone. Now you're struggling just to get off the ice. The other team has fresh legs, and it's a domino effect. The other issue too is, they're not breaking the puck out. They're getting dominated on the forecheck. They're allowing zone entry way too easy. And I don't know if they're spooked by their speed. I don't know if it's a neutral zone. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but they're gaining entry way too easily.
That's been the biggest thing.
Yeah, it feels like the D are just accepting the rush inside the dots, which, yes, I understand you have to sometimes if you don't have gap. But Laviolette has always been known for his neutral zone, forcing dump-ins. It's really hard to get through that, and it feels like Florida is getting through there with ease, and they're accepting the rush, and now they're coming in with zone entry and possession, and they got them through the spin cycle, and it looked like, the Blackhawks years ago during those dynasty runs where you got all 5 guys moving within the offensive zone, and you don't know who the fuck's going where and what's going on.
I kind of want to ask you, and first of all, DZ, thank you for the time this morning. We just a couple more. But on the flip side, watching him closely, I know Colby and I have talked about it a little bit on the show throughout the season, but haven't really watched in like full detail. Gustav Forsling, man, this guy is I don't know how many times I could say it. He is the definition of a brick shithouse. Like nothing gets by him. Nothing gets through him. He also has a hammer of a shot. Like, what are you seeing from Forsling on the other end? Because I don't see anyone beating him wide, anyone even winning a race, anyone winning a battle against him. Like, he is just essentially the flawless defenseman in the NHL right now.
There was a flipped puck last game, and Kreider was full steam on it, and Forsling was right on his hip. And there's not many guys that can do that. He is an incredible defender. I think his offensive game has definitely improved just because of the confidence the coaching staff has given in him. He's playing before in and out of the lineup, getting waived, traded. Now he's playing 20 plus minutes a night. First pair, he's getting power play looks. He's getting every opportunity. And, you guys know as good as anyone, when confidence is instilled and you're given all those opportunities, you're getting those extra puck touches. The game, you're in this flow state, right? The game just comes easy to you. And I'm not saying that's for everyone. His skating ability allows the game to slow down and be much easier. He's able to make mistakes and recover with his legs. He's an incredible story. He was, as I said, waived and traded and moved on so many times, and now he's found a home there, a team that's appreciated him, and he's a dominating presence every single game. Dominating presence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely. Just the way that he closes on you. I mean, you talked about the rush. I mean, he doesn't forget giving up the blue line. He doesn't give up the red line. I mean, he's skating and he's he almost moves like, I mean, like when you watch Victor Hedman accept a rush, he just he takes all your life away from you when he accepts a rush. He's just got this big old wingspan. Forsling is playing like that right now, man. He's going to get paid. I mean, he is going to get a big old contract. I hope he stays in Florida, but I'm sure there'll be more, bigger offers elsewhere. But with the tax situation, I'm sure, he's got smart people to tell him, hey, you take a couple less million in Florida. It's the same thing as, 8 in Florida is the same thing as 10 in New Jersey or whatever, 11 in Toronto or whatever the case may be.
I don't know.
And you're wearing shorts all year long and riding your golf cart to the practice rink. It's not so bad either. Yeah.
I don't know if people have seen it. Sorry, DZ, I didn't mean to jump there. I got a little too horny, but Paul Maurice in his press conferences when he's asked about like Sam Reinhart and all these guys who are UFAs, he's been doing this bit calling them assholes and pieces of shit. So no one else wants them. It's actually been pretty funny. Like every time he's asked about an upcoming contract, Paul Maurice has this bit going. So I don't know if people have caught on to that love to watch the media post-game pressers and whatnot. But if you haven't, tune into Paul Maurice's post-game stuff because it's hilarious.
He's fun to listen to. He's got a great sense of humor, a dry sense of humor, but he's so detailed with the game. And he's not, shortchanging you on answers like maybe like a Torchwood. Like he's giving you everything he has, and it's he's fun to listen to.
I mean, Torts is a whole nother adventure with the media, which I'm wildly entertained by. I worked in Philly. I did TV for the Flyers for a couple of years. He was not the coach, but I probably would have had more to talk about on TV had he been the coach. Look, before we let you go, I want to just ask you a couple of things here. First, where and what are you up to? Like, where can people find you now? I see on like Jonny's Twitter, because he does the videos when you're at the games, and I know you go on his other shows sometimes, but do you have a show that you do? Are you still involved with hockey at all? I know you were doing real estate, I think I saw at one point. Where like I'm sure a lot of people kind of like, you had a big personality as a player. Like, I think, you had an aura. So I'm sure people kind of are wondering where they can find you these days.
Yeah. I mean, off the grid on the hockey side, definitely a little bit. I needed a bit of a break, it consumed my whole life, and needed to step away from it for a little bit. I'm doing some stuff with the Rangers on the alumni side. That's really as far as it goes with hockey. I was actually supposed to play in that 3-ice league this summer, which
really?
got postponed to next summer. I'm living in Miami. I'm in New York quite a bit because my brother lives there with my 2 baby nephews. I do real estate here. I work with a luxury golf travel company, so we curate bucket list trips all over the world. We do events as well, like Masters, Waste Management Open, stuff like that. And I'm enjoying life. It's, as I mentioned before, the kind of the end of my career, moving as much as I did. It's empowering and refreshing to now have control of my life again and get to choose where I can live, where I can be, and not, waiting by the phone for someone to call me and say, pack your shit, and you're, getting traded across the country. So I've been enjoying that. I'll be traveling a bunch this summer, and then come fall, there's a few other opportunities that I kind of have to keep quiet right now that'll come about.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, I think you'd be a perfect fit on TV if that's something that you wanted to do with one of the American networks, one of the Canadian networks. I mean, you've got the playing resume, you've got the personality, you've got the looks. So, certainly something you could do. The last thing for me before I'm sure Jonny wants to see you off is, I'm not going to ask you for a Rangers series prediction, because I don't want to put you in the seat for that. But how do you see this Edmonton Oilers Dallas Stars series finishing out? What would your prediction be on that?
It's going to go 7, I think. I called that from the start. I still like Dallas. Last night was shocking to me. Like that was, very shocking. I still like Dallas. I think that Tanev injury though is going to be, depending what happens there, may decide the series. I know it's a crazy comment to make about a guy who doesn't really produce much, but you just look at the numbers from the first 2 series on the job he's done against the other team's top lines. And, that's why every single year he's been sought after for playoff teams. Like the job that he does, the little things he does, similar to a Goodrow just on the back end. Some of the stuff you can't measure. He's such an important piece to that team. So I guess we'll find out in the next day or two what that injury is, but that's going to decide the series, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm so proud of the way Tyler Seguin is playing. I think you guys are buds from the same hood. We were together in Boston, when he was a rookie. I was maybe a second year, I just, the way he's playing, I love it. The maturity that's come to his game. Like when he makes a big play, like he's still a guy that I get super excited for to see him succeed. So, that's all I got for him, Jonny. If you got a couple and you want to show him out here.
Well, I just got one from our producer, Vic, who would be pissed at me if I didn't ask. Our producer's a huge Leafs fan. Greg Berube, new head coach. You think he's the right voice? You think he's the one that can do it for them?
Yeah, I mean, if not him, who, right? That's the thing. It's hard to say, because when you've paid as much money as they have to 5 guys, those guys kind of control the locker room, and you need an intimidating presence in there to kind of scare those guys a little bit. They've gotten away with playing the same way for how many years now, and whether that's the GM, whether that's a coach, building the same team every year and expecting different results, that's the definition of insanity. So me growing up in Toronto, I'm still a Leafs fan. Like, it's Rangers and Leafs are my team, and I still cheer for them. And I get disappointed because it's the same thing every single year. They're fucking soft. We talk about the 50-50 puck battles, all those little things to win, they don't do. And yeah, you have to lose before you can win. I understand that. But after how many years that you're learning or being taught the same lessons and you're not learning?
Yeah.
Right. So it's very frustrating. So I think Chief is probably the guy for the job. But again, who knows? They just have so much money for 5 guys that, unfortunately, when you have that that job security and you're making that much money, you have quite a bit of power there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But DZ, thank you so much, and I'll break the news for you that you're joining Miami FC when Messi leaves as your next gig in the fall.
I actually went to the game last night because I'm a huge Messi fan. He scored. They lost, but he had a sick goal. But I couldn't believe how bad the stadium was. Like, I thought it was at a high school stadium.
Really?
Like, it's terrible there. I think they're building a new one. Yeah, I wasn't impressed at all. It's all the way out Fort Lauderdale, but cool to see. Definitely a little bit of a step down from the Aston Villa Liverpool game I was at a few weeks ago outside London. But cool to see, a guy. You talk about aura and that guy, what he's done for soccer here in North America and really soccer all over the world. That guy is, you could say, the best to ever play. So being able to watch him live and see him with the ball, he's a magician. So it was special.
You heard it here first. Lionel Messi's the Matt Rempe of soccer.
You always have to say something dumb to lose everyone, don't you, Johnny?
Always. But DZ, thank you so much. I'll talk to you later. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll chat soon. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Later. That was fun. That was awesome. Great insight too on the Leafs and everything. DZ played in the league for, I think, 14 years, 15 years.
And he was an impact player for a very long time, and he's been in a lot of locker rooms. And look, to see a guy who finished his career, he spent his last couple of seasons in the American League, just to go down there and do that after the guy has enough money probably for multiple lifetimes. It just shows you how much he loves hockey. Because it's not like a guy like him has a shortage of opportunities when they're done. When you have the career he had, any TV network will take you, any real estate firm will take you, any business development, like he probably has a million doors open for him, but he wanted to keep playing. And, I couldn't do that. But you could just tell guys who love the game that much can go and do that. So, it's pretty obvious. You hear him talk about the Rangers. He's talking about right shots and he's dialed into the game.
Yeah,
I mean, he's very, very dialed into the game, which is not always the case for everybody. So I know, good job getting him to come on. I know I've been giving you a hard time because you've had him on your Rangers show a couple of times.
He's a morning guy though. He's always active playing pickleball in the gym. Like, it's tough to get him in the mornings,
Well, listen, good job. You got him in the playoffs. You got him before a massive game for the New York Rangers. He brought a lot of great insight into some different topics around the league. I thought some of the conversation about how the lineup's going to shake out was really interesting because, again, I think that's a big question mark going into tonight's game for the New York Rangers is what is that lineup going to be? And does Lavi feel pressure to keep Rempe in the lineup if just because of the outside noise? Like, how much does that influence him? You'd think it doesn't, but
I think he's been fine though.
He is a human. I agree he's been fine, but if you're only going to play him for that 5 minutes, where's Johnny Brodzinski? And if Heedle's going to come back into the lineup, which I think he needs to, and you really can't play Roslovic on that top line. Every time you try it, he gets taken off that top line. And then all of a sudden your blender, you're back in the blender.
Yeah.
I just wonder. I don't know. I don't have the answer. I have my opinion, but I don't have the answer. And so I do think it's a fascinating story that we'll find out here over the next, couple of hours after, as we get closer to game time.
Yeah, I won't be at morning skate. It's at 10:30, so we'll have an idea of the lineup from the other beat reporters and whatnot. But would you go 11-7 even if you're the Rangers? Would you consider doing that?
The only reason that I would say I would consider doing, if you go 11-7, it can't be Matt Rempe. He can't.
That's why I'm asking.
He can't play if it's 11-7.
But Lafreniere has kind of been getting, I guess, I don't know if it was last game or game 3 where he was getting double shifted. It looked
because listen, when a guy's going, get him on the ice more. So my concern is you're at home, so you want to have Rempe in the lineup. You're playing at home. I don't know if going 11-7 at home is the right play because you need Rempe in the lineup. If you're going 11-7, Rempe can't play in the lineup because you can't have 11-7 and only give a guy 5 minutes. So I don't hate the 11-7 idea if they're on the road because you can put Lafreniere out on the ice more. You can put try to get Kreider and Zibanejad and Panarin on the ice, because, if you put Panarin out on with Cooley or other fourth line players, you're putting him out against the other team's fourth line.
Yeah.
You're getting Panarin better matchups. Panarin's playing against Barkov and Tkachuk the entire series, right? Try to get Panarin out on the ice against Okposo, Lorentz, Lomberg, guys like that. And I think, that's where 11-7 can help you. And when you look at the D-core and you're worried about the way Trouba's playing and you're worried about Fox's health, and Gus has had some moments in the series.
Too, man. Lindgren's
Lindgren's always banged up. Now you could bring Jones in, who brings a little bit of skating, not a little bit. He's a good skater. He's a good puck mover. He can get back on pucks. He's smaller, but maybe it helps you redistribute the ice time a little bit. So I like the idea, Jonny, but I don't like it unless you're prepared to play Matt Rempe at least 10 or 11 minutes at home. Because if you're not, I think you need to have 12 forwards.
Yeah, I still think I'm in the camp that the Rangers' fourth line has been good, and they should be out there more. I thought they got pucks behind Florida's D and banged it back.
You listen, I have yet to say, since I've seen Rempe playing in the playoffs, I've yet to say that he can't play.
Yeah,
My argument is that if you're only playing him 5 minutes,
what's the good?
And you're on the road, there's a better use, because he doesn't bring the same, juice on the road because of the fans, right? It's just different. You're in the building. You're the one who's been selling us on that for a while. So
I'm not the only fucking one doing it.
No, I know. I'm not saying you're selling us a false bill of goods either.
Yeah.
You're telling us a story that seemingly looks true.
It's almost like, do you know Dennis Bernstein at all with SiriusXM in the fourth period?
I know. I've seen the name. I don't know him though.
I was talking to him a little bit last week, and it's almost like become a point where, again, this is, a Jonny brain moment, but I said to Dennis, I was like, Matt Rempe's almost like Santa Claus, right? Like there are people who believe, there's like kids who believe in it and kids who don't, but it's this like some sort of magic. And if you believe in it and it works, don't tell people not to believe in it. It's like this crazy mythological creature that we've made of this kid. Like this isn't the reputation Rempe wanted or had prior to stepping into the NHL. Like everyone else has kind of created the personality for him. Am I wrong?
Can I tell you something?
I'm stupid.
Normally, my response to this would be, you're an idiot. Normally.
But do you agree?
But you know what? I don't disagree with you for once. For once in the last 5 months of doing the show together, I don't disagree with the way you're categorizing this. I'm laughing.
Clip it,
because it's so stupid. But you know what? I don't disagree. I think it's a funny and it's a very Jonny comparison to make. It's only you at 30 years old, or I know you're not 30, but
28.
And Santa Claus probably didn't even come to your house, by the way.
No,
didn't come to my house either.
Yeah.
But comes to see my daughter though now, because we do the 50-50 thing, so she doesn't get just the 8 crazy nights, she gets the whole 8 crazy plus 1. Lucky kid. I agree, but I think it's funny, and I agree, and I think that's an interesting thing to say. So look, we're gonna get to our Betway here quickly. Before we get to our Betway, we've got 185 votes on the poll. So if you haven't voted on the poll, jump in the chat. Give us your vote. As soon as we get done Betway, we'll call it, and we'll close the voting out to see what people think. Give us a like on this episode. This is, we need to be able to tell Del Zotto this was like our highest rated episode, so we can get him on more regularly. Yeah. So throw us a like. Make sure you subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube page. Those things go a long way. And then let's get into our Betway bet of the day, because it is definitely Rangers Panthers themed. And Betway's still offering the great promotion, free $200 bet. Use the QR code on your screen. Just scan it, create a new account, get on the app, make your bet. If it doesn't pan out, they'll reimburse you up to $200. Then you can use the $200 to go make your money back. All right, it's one game a night. You've got basketball, you've got baseball going on. You got a little bit of everything. Get a little wild. We've been going with anytime goal scorers quite often recently. We didn't hit with Ropa Hintz last night, although he did have a couple of pretty good opportunities. But, we're going to go back to something that has been old faithful for us a couple of times in the playoffs so far. And we're thinking Igor Shesterkin over 28.5 saves. I know it's minus 125, but to me, it seems like easy money. All right. It really does. And, Shesterkin has just been on another level. I think that continues tonight. He's going to see a lot of rubber. When a team like Florida goes on the road and you start talking about a road period and a road game, that means get a lot of pucks and a lot of traffic to the net. So I do think that is a really, really solid bet for this evening. With Betway, that offer only available outside of Ontario, and just make sure that you're gambling responsibly. I don't want to have to Venmo you like I do to Jonny when he starts gambling irresponsibly. Never happens. I'm just joking. So, all right. So let's read off the poll here real quick, Jonny, and then I'll give you the final word. It looks like 36% said Oilers in 6, 36% Oilers in 7, Stars in 6, 5%, and Stars in 7, 23%. So our listeners overwhelmingly think that the Edmonton Oilers are going to win this series in 6 or 7 games out of 186 votes. So you've got 72% margin are calling for the Edmonton Oilers to win this series. So there you have it. I'm a little bit surprised at that, to be honest with you. I do think we get a lot of Oilers fans that watch the show because, obviously our whole platform started in Edmonton and we love that. But look, I more hockey played in Edmonton. I said it before the series started. My head said Dallas. My heart wants to see Edmonton win. I want McDavid in a Stanley Cup final. I want those fans. I want the energy. I want Canada. I want all of those things for a Stanley Cup final. So look, I hope you're right in the chat. I hope you are right in the chat. I don't think you are, but I hope that you are right.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I am. Mine says Dallas, Florida. Heart wants Edmonton Rangers. That's kind of where I'm at with this too. I think we're kind of aligned with that. But
Jonny, is tonight a must-win for the New York Rangers?
I was just going to finish the show with that. Not a must-win, but definitely a can't lose. I think we've seen now the Rangers can go on the road and win in Game 6. They did it in Carolina when they had to. Igor Shesterkin is a goalie that can steal one. So if you lose this game, depending on how you lose this game tonight, I don't think your season's over. But going back to Florida after having a 2-1 lead, a chance to make it 3-1, you don't put it away, you don't win at home. It's tough to come back from. And we know that these things don't carry over from game to game, but sure as shit felt like Game 3 carried over to Game 4 a little bit, even though the Rangers won Game 3 in overtime, right?
I'm just impressed with the maturity that you're showing, not calling it a must win. And normally
I call it a can't lose.
You're big on the panic button. So you're big on the in the moment panic button.
But I've learned.
So I'm proud of the maturity that you're showing and the poise that you're showing me here by not calling this a must win. Of course, you don't want to go down 3-2, but both teams have had leads in this series, right?
Yeah.
It's fun.
I'm really feeling a 7 in both series.
Yeah, which is great.
Which would be sick.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, and you get to Game 7, you're talking about a bounce.
Yeah.
You get to overtime in a Game 7, you're talking about a deflection off Barclay Goodrow off a faceoff. You're talking about a shot off Darnell Nurse's butt, that goes in from Lindell last night. That's the type of shit you're talking about when you get to a Game 7. So just get to Game 7 and sort it out from there.
Wait, can I just say one thing though, quick? Historically, Rangers Game 5 conference finals have been very, very bad. So if there is a panic button from older generation Ranger fans, I get it. Just so you know, Colby, the Rangers are 0-6 in their last Game 5s in the Eastern Conference Final.
And you pulled that stat out. You pulled that stat out on the Dallas Stars, and it stayed true in Game 1.
Yeah, and 4 of those 6 were at home. So I just want to remind people.
What years? Do you know what years those were?
I have it. So it was 94. The Rangers lost at home to the Devils. They went down 3-2 in that series.
We're really going back here.
Yeah, really going back. 97, they lost in game 5 to Philly, but on the road. In 2012, which we talked about with DZ, they lost at home to the Devils. 2015, they lost game 5 to Montreal on the road. And then the last two, 2015 against Tampa at home, 2022 against Tampa at home.
So not a ton of this core has been a part of that, though.
No. But like, historically, the Rangers just, for whatever reason, the game 5s in this particular spot, they come up short. And, I said to, I forgot who I was talking to, but I said, two games in my lifetime as a Ranger fan that just totally need to be erased from my memory are 2015 game 5 and game 7. The Rangers got shut out in both of those games at home with a chance to go to the Stanley Cup final. Like, so if the Rangers can find a way to win this one, you need that just edged out of your brain.
All right. Well, look, we'll be, just a reminder to everyone, we will be back here tomorrow. We are doing a Friday show tomorrow. We miss Monday. Yes, we are going to do a show on Friday. We owe you guys 4 shows a week. We're definitely going to do that. We've even had conversations about the playoffs for next season doing Fridays, just because we hate being away from you guys for so many days. Doug Waite in the chat just said, boys, I just got here. Did you talk Oilers Stars yet? Dougie, we
hit the rewind button, Dougie.
We spent the first 25, maybe almost 30 minutes until Del Zotto jumped on talking about the Stars Oilers. So rewind it back to the beginning of the show and give that a listen, because we gave a lot of thoughts, opinions, feelings, and we talked a lot of Stars Oilers at the second half of yesterday's show as well. So that's kind of the format we're rolling with right now. We talk about the game that just happened, and then we preview the other game, obviously with answering your guys' questions from within. We will have a couple of days between the conference finals and the Stanley Cup finals, which we're going to bring some guests on, talk about some other things around the league. I mean, there's been other things going on with coaching searches and, Don Waddell's official new job and things that he's been saying since he took over, and, just visiting news, let's call it, around the NHL that we haven't really got to. And we will in the days between the conference finals and the Stanley Cup. And realistically, we'll be one of the only, groups out there doing hockey every day at that point, because, the national partners that cover the game, they're doing game coverage, right? So you'll have us, you'll have Tyler and Frank, you'll have Oilers Nation, all their content going on every day, depending on what happens in their series. So, stick with us. We've got, lots to offer here the next couple of weeks as we wind this season down. And then, we start heading into the draft and free agency, which you're at 30 days now. I mean, imagine that we're about a month away from free agency, if you can believe that. So the clock will keep on moving, Johnny.
Yeah, it's been really busy, but it's also been really fun. And that's the best part of it. Colby and I are having so much fun with all of you in the chat every day. I just bang my elbow so hard. Oh my God. But keep bringing the energy in the chat and keep showing up, keep hitting the like and subscribe button. We love it. We need it. We appreciate it. But that's all I've got for today. Colby, any final thoughts before we kind of send it off?
Nope. Take her home.
All right. Big thank you to everybody today. Big thank you to Michael Del Zotto. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview. Thank you to our producer, Vic. And we will see you all tomorrow, 9 a.m. Friday. And we'll kick off the weekend with a bang, hopefully. So enjoy the day.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.